Okay, so you are ready to, you have a design that you think is ready to go, or you are a manufacturer and you have these capabilities. What are some of the things you should be asking yourself before you jump in? And we have Bill Cameron and Janet rather, sorry about that, from 3Comply, who will walk us through the manufacturing requirements, common misconceptions, and how they have helped other organizations know the steps before they manufacture. So take it away.
Awesome. Hi guys. First of all, it's great to be with the group, even if we're just virtually. I'm excited because I've been looking forward to doing a presentation for you guys. We're here with my partner Jeanette Himmelreich, who has many of the processes and the technical things that you just talked about in terms of the tests. She's actually been in the room when that's been done. So our company is 3Comply. We're partners. I'm based out of Barrington, and Janet is based out of the Philadelphia area, King of Prussia in particular. And for about the past 2 years, close to 2 years, one of our biggest areas that we've been working is with N95 masks and helping take from the technology and the engineering perspective, which is all the designs and stuff like that, and getting it to a product that you could able to be tested, then approved, and then you could be able to manufacture. So we're trying to do the bridge over between the engineering and all that kind of, and the design work that we're talking here, into how do you get it to that product so that you could be able to get out into the market.
I'm Janet, by the way.
Sorry, this is Janet. Sorry.
Giving him the directions, like all women do.
So we're gonna be going through the presentation. I'm gonna be giving some background onto the overall issue and the topic, and Janet is going to take us through the 10 steps, which are a little bit more detailed. Okay, so we're going to go through some background, obviously some of the common misperceptions, because as you mentioned, this is a N95, which is a very specific type of certificate approval. We're going to go over a little bit of the NIOSH rules, go through some of the opportunities, talk about a little bit about the contract manufacturers expedited approvals, which is obviously what we're in right now, and also obviously the supply chain difficulties. And then we're going to go through those 10 specific steps, and we're going to go through some question answer session, which hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions that the community might have.
Bill, just to jump in, I know
Sure.
we talked the other day, you had some visuals that you showed up.
Yes.
Just
You've
so
got the
everyone,
mask.
Oh, yes.
yeah, what is an N95 mask?
Okay, great. Sorry. Hopefully this shows up here. In my hand, I have an actual N95 mask. This was bought before the whole panic and things like that going on. But this is an N95 mask. This one here happens to be manufactured by 3M. This has gone through testing. In here, there's a stamp, and there's also a certification number that you could go and look up and verify. We're going to go through that a little bit more. This is one example of one design. Some of the other designs that we have too that we work with, I'm going to go through, and we'll open that up at the end. But we have another manufacturer that we work with, and this is one of the ones we helped get the certification for. And I'll show this at the end. It's kind of cool. And again, it's super flat. So this is, we'll go through that in a moment. Some of the designs.
So, and N95 refers to something other than like that it's white and it has a yellow strap. Maybe you can.
Absolutely.
We'll do that as we go through. Yeah.
I promise I will get, absolutely, I'll get to that too. There is, and there are some specifics. So the one that just start us off a little bit is the N95, where is it regulated from? So it's regulated from an area called NIOSH, and National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. And basically they see the approval process. They're originally started off as part of the Department of Mines back in like the 50s. So a lot of the things that are there are oriented towards mining originally, and it's based out of Pittsburgh area. NIOSH is actually a part of the CDC, and also they're looking at to be able to protect workers. So this is different from a medical device, which is used to, for obviously for FDA things. That's something called a 510. This is different, but N95 is what's commonly used in the workplace to be able to describe these masks that will filter out 95% of the particulates that are in the air. So this stuff we've already gone through a little bit. We're going to provide these slides, and this is going to be information that if anybody wants to have, we'll make sure they have available for download as well. But this just basically restates some of the information that we just discussed. One of the big areas is 42 CFR Part 84, and this is the law that describes what's involved in obtaining the approval. And we'll go over that a little bit more in a minute. So 42 CFR 84, this has all of the regulations that are in there. And some of this is, believe it or not, quite dated. So there's portions of it that are from the 50s. There's portions of it that are from the 80s. Some of the things have been updated, but this covers all the different things that are required in order to be able to go through, gain approval of,
And that's my dog.
of these devices. That's Josie, by the way, for everybody. She, the 95 itself means N is for workplaces free of oil aerosols. And 95 means the respirator mask can filter at least 95% of efficiency level of airborne particulates. So it's filtering out 95% of those particulates that are in the air. And there are specific tests that are done in the background. There's some of these are, obviously when they do these tests, a lot of times they're using obviously human beings. So they're using innocuous things such as pulverized salt, also corn oil, pulverized, and they're like atomized. These are the types of things that they're using to be able to test those things and see what is going to be received on the back end. What an N95 is not is like all the things, a lot of things we were discussing today. It's not a paper surgical mask. It's not a drywall mask. It's not a multi-use cloth mask that are being advertised on Facebook. It's not used for aerosols, so it's not those are different. The ones that have the canisters, a lot of those are N99s that have the canisters. And you can't just stamp a product on it. Unfortunately, right now, there's an awful lot of fake ones that are out there. I just saw the NIOSH just issued an alert, I think it was issued yesterday, about additional stuff, especially it's coming out of China, that's stamped N95 and it is not. So, and I also heard about I heard some other reports about things being shipped to the United States as if they were N95s and they're not. So those exist out in the marketplace right now. But obviously right now we're dealing with an emergency. So obviously a lot of those things are in cycle. So some of the things that if you have a respirator and as soon as you have it designed and you have it tested, you need to be able to do some different steps here. We're going to go through these very lightly. Janet is going to go through these more in detail. The first thing is you have to consult what they call the standard application procedure, or the SAP. And then you have to submit something called a standard application form. These are all, this will include things as documentation and also quality requirements that also are in there as well. You have to provide testing that you have done, and you have to send samples to NIOSH for them to test. You have to submit a quality manual for your organization and your contract manufacturer. So if in some cases that particular company is making it, or they might have it out to a contract manufacturer, those are the sorts of things that are out there as well. There are some shortcuts that folks are taking today, which they are licensing different products. So factories are making things that they don't necessarily have made in the past. And so they're submitting additional paperwork to be able to make sure that they can be able to act as a contract manufacturer or through a licensing agreement. And there's a lot of that's happening right now, and they are expediting those processes. There's also the quality manual we already mentioned, standard testing procedures. There's you have to have it tested in a lab, basically, with subjects having a variety of face sizes. So there's men, ladies. None of these are actually tested for children. So that's one thing that's out there. If you ever see something that says N95 and it says kid, that's counterfeit. It's not. There are no N95s for children at this time. If it's all well, then they go to they do an investigation at the manufacturing site. And if everything continues to go well, then you get an approval number that you must be placed, the mask must be placed on the masks that are to be manufactured so that it can be referenced in the future. Again, there's been examples where people are putting, illegal manufacturers are putting stamps from other manufacturers on there, pretending that they are the same and they're not. So one of the biggest things is that really what you're making is you're not making a mask per se, you're actually making a respirator, and that's what they call it. So it's trying to provide protection in a hazardous environment, and they're supposed to be for workplaces that are governed by OSHA only. So it's not for volunteer organizations, consumers, although obviously a lot of those things are used in those circumstances. And there's obviously a need for that, especially what's going on. But that is the real purpose of those. It's supposed to be able to protect workers, and that was the oriented towards that. So there's all kinds of different sizes of faces. Obviously, every human being we have, as one of the Jason mentioned before, everybody has a different size face. Well, one of the things that has to be done with these in order to be effective is you have to be fit tested. And there's a process, and actually I've seen some hospitals, and actually NIOSH and also the CDC have put out guidance for how hospitals fit test masks, especially in these emergency situations. The one thing also is that most of these will not work with facial hair. So you either have to be closely trimmed or basically something to a very, very, almost stubble type situation in order for these to work effectively. And these also are part of personal protective equipment, which is obviously all the things that we've been talking about today in this whole session for the past few hours. One of the big opportunities that's available, and especially for manufacturers locally, is that you have the ability to become a contract manufacturer if you aren't already. Those approval holder, basically, they retain the intellectual property and the responsibility for all the production, but you can be able to fast track that process that we just described to be able to make sure that you could be able to manufacture quickly. And they are expediting these things. And we have a few clients right now that are dealing with this and trying to, they're actually going to be manufacturing at multiple different sites at the same time. And this process, they've opened the gates to be able to make sure this goes as fast as possible. The one thing, though, is that obviously one of the things is you just need to know who to speak with over there. We've had Janet especially has a lot of experience with there, which she's going to go through in a moment. But one of the key is obviously what's been discussed today is the filtration materials, which are been in scarce supply everywhere. And so any of those different components are in there. They have to meet testing requirements and things like that before they're used. If those aren't there, obviously this can throw a wrench in the work, so to speak. With that, I'm going to hand this over to my partner, which is Janet, and we're going to go through the 10 steps.
Thanks, Bill. And my co-presenter, my dog is growling at the wind behind me, so I do apologize for that. As Bill said, I have had the opportunity to actually be in the National Propellant Lab and seen the testing. And what goes along with it is, as we were saying, the innovation and stuff that everybody's been talking about is wonderful. But if you actually want the mask to get certified, you have to have a full-blown quality control program, and it has to be in place. And that's kind of what the stuff is that we do, is help them step it up. So, for example, the mask that Bill showed you that's in the bag and flat, they had gone through their testing, but they failed on the end of having their quality assurance program appropriately documented. So we had to start from scratch and do it over again, and then they got approved. So it's very important. And the number one thing is that quality assurance manual. It has to have the overall approach and all the controls to meet that 42 CFR Part 84, specifically, for those of you who like to read those things, Subpart E describes all those quality controls. But, any of you that have been in the end of production of anything, manufacturing, training, more training, it's all about the training at the end of the day. You have to keep those records, and Bill was explaining, if there is a subcontractor that's doing the manufacturing as a contract manufacturer on behalf of the approval holder, then it's on the responsibility of the approval holder to make sure that you have all those records, not only for the approval holder in the oversight role, but also that the contract manufacturer has all of that and a full understanding of the joint obligations for both companies. So if you go to the next steps, Bill, then we have the steps 3 and 4, which I don't remember because we put them all in different orders. Yeah, there we go. So if you do have that subcontractor, we do recommend you have a joint operating procedure or a joint work instruction that goes through the specific steps of what the handoffs are and who's responsible for what between the approval holder and the contract manufacturer. And generally speaking, once you've got those handoffs described once, it should be the same going forward. You shouldn't really have a problem with that. So a lot of this stuff is an investment of time up front to get it done, but once you have it, then you're good. And the quality management system is particularly important. And what I mean by the system, you have your quality assurance manual, you have these joint operations, but you then have all your own processes and procedures that are run through procurement, inspection, assessment, testing, processing, and manufacturing. All of those things are part of the individual quality management system that a contractor will have in place or a manufacturer needs to have in place. Then we go to steps 5 and 6, and those are what I was just describing on the left-hand side there. Operational processes and procedures, work instructions, detail all those tasks. Because at the end of the day, people are depending on that stamp. That N95 is telling that person, the wearer, that you've been fit tested, hopefully not in the crisis we're in now, but you were fit tested, you know which mask fits you appropriately, you can use that mask, and you can depend on it. So the quality part of it is very, very important, because after all, you are breathing through that, and you want to make sure that you're healthy at the end of the day. So those testing protocols that are on the right hand there, you have your own as the approval holder, and the ones that then are the samples that are kept, you maintain through production, and those are where NIOSH is going to come in and be able to come back and check your records. They're going to be able to see whether you had failures and what you did to correct if you had a failure. So that's one place you just don't want to skimp. You just cannot skimp on the protocols. Step 7 is to make sure whatever machines you're using, whatever equipment, for example, if you're doing it's a test called an 8130, which is a test to see whether the filtration materials are still operating properly after you've done the manufacturing. So it's been through all the processes, like molding it or putting the straps on, or in the case of ours, it has adhesive put on it. Did that machine, is it the same? Is it calibrated? So you've got all kinds of different things. Is it doing what it's supposed to do? Again, key part to the qualification of what you're doing and examining, or proving evidence of quality. Maintaining your quality certifications. So there's a big difference here between FDA and NIOSH. So NIOSH regulates the N95 mask, not the FDA. You might have an N95 mask that can be used in a healthcare setting, but that's gone through what Bill was saying, a 510K, that it was certified also for use by in healthcare. But it's NIOSH that partners with the FDA to do all that testing. So at the end of the day, you want to make sure you've got your backup plan, whatever it is. You might be ISO 9001 certified. You might have a 13485, which is specific for FDA. Others, GMP, if you recognize that, good manufacturing practices, or Six Sigma, whatever it is in the manufacturing process, you want to have that in place. And then next, Bill, you do audit and assessment. Part of the assurance part of what you're doing for your quality management system, you, the approval holder or the manufacturer, or both, are doing assurance testing to make sure that your manufacturing processes are doing what they say they're doing. People are trained, people know how to do it correctly, they're following the rules that you've set out. And NIOSH will add a minimum performance site audit at the initiation of an approval and biannually after that. And this includes a CAPA process. So you should have a corrective action, preventive action plan program that's in place. If you find a problem, then you want to get it resolved. And then the final step there, and very, very important part, you've got to be able to show the evidence that you did what you said you were going to do. So your record keeping is very important, that you've got preferably an electronic and an automated system, though some people still are using some handwritten signatures and handwritten forms. By the way, NIOSH uses just a simple Excel spreadsheet for some stuff they do. So, you know, it still all flows together. But you want to manage those quality records to be sure you find that you're using the most current instructions, and that your version control there, therefore, is evident. It's really important, or you cannot show your quality. I think there was a comment, Peter said, it's not only that, also where you get the materials from. So that's a good point about where you get your materials from. Part of the process that we're talking about that needs to be documented is, where did you get your materials from? Did they meet the specs? So when they send that to the manufacturer, they send what's called a certificate of compliance, or it could be a certificate of authenticity. They're called a variety of different things. But that is one of the very first steps of when you're procuring those materials to meet your specs, the manufacturing firm has to ensure they have those certificates of compliance through inspection. And if they don't have it, then they have to be quarantined, is the word. It happens to match right now. But they have to be quarantined until they do receive their certificate of compliance. That's a very good point and an important one from here. So I think we're ready to take any questions and hopefully answers. We did show you a bit of a different part. The innovation was fascinating. It was great to see what people can do with 3D printers and all that kind of stuff, but they're not manufacturing N95s at the moment. They are doing quick things, which is very needed. And
Yeah,
I also agreed with Jason that we need stuff for the local hospitals quickly.
Yeah, really, really great information, Janet and Bill. Thank you so much for sharing this. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I think I was on mute briefly. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
What I love about what you've been talking about is really that N95s are part of a large group of products that are regulated, and that there are a lot of really rules there that we need to follow. But the advice I would like to offer folks who are looking to innovate in this space or even manufacture is, don't be afraid of the testing. Don't be afraid of that process. You're not going to learn anything if you don't ever go through it and find out where you need to fix things. So, you know, I think, you know, from your perspective as a expert in the regulatory process and approval, what would your advice be to somebody who's just gonna kind of getting started and they have a novel idea? What piece of advice would you offer?
Well, in fact, Bill, why don't you show the novel one that we have? You'll see the difference about it. And like I said, the mistake they made was not making sure that they understood what the quality requirements are. But here's what makes this one novel. So show how it goes on, Bill. I mean, you don't have to peel the adhesive.
This is the N90. This is one that actually that Janet was in the room with them having tested. This is a ready mask. And basically it's folding up. It's very, I don't know if it's going to show with the background.
Yeah, you can see it. Go ahead.
Okay. It's basically almost like a Band-Aid, right? So you have, this is the front of the mask. This is the back of the mask. You take this adhesive release paper off. And then once you take that off, it will stick to your nose, make a full seal, and then you make a full seal around your face and then all the way down to here. So this all comes together and almost like a bag. It makes a full seal all around your nose and all the way around the edge of your chin. And this meets, but because this looks an awful lot different than something like this. They called it a novel mask, or novel, as we know, is meaning new. It's a new type of design. And so this went through
So
a lot of extra scrutiny.
was the testing different? So meaning, you know, you wouldn't want to test this design against the old design because it's got a completely different approach.
Well,
How was
that's
that
a
process?
very good question. And it was the source of a lot of debate with NIOSH. But yes, ultimately it was put through the same test as the 3M mask that Bill had there. The tests are all the same. They're done with the standard operating or standard testing procedure, an STP. So my advice would be, by the way, is to really look at the NIOSH site and understand the SAP. The SAP is the standard application procedure, which they publish. And it's new now, that it's updated October 2018. And if you go through that and all the checklists are there, then you will have gone through everything that needs to be done. But
what about,
you can't skip that step.
Yeah, what about working with them or contacting them to say, hey, I'm looking at something new. Do you have any advice for me in terms of, or working with them to adapt a new test or a new verification?
Well, they're going to be like any government bureaucracy. They won't tell you yes or no. They will point you to the STP. I found them to be very helpful. Being there in person was a very big help, and I was the quality manager. Being there in person, we wanted to make sure they understood that we wanted to do this with the right quality. But they cannot tell you, yes, it's going to work, or no, it's not.
Right.
They can't really give you advice. But reaching out to them and establishing a rapport, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
It's a great thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great advice. And even, you know, what the FDA is doing on these emergency use agreements, which I don't know if NIOSH is doing the same thing, but allowing some flexibility there.
They are allowing some flexibility.
Yes, yeah. So that's great to hear.
I don't think they formalized it as the FDA has the same, but they definitely are allowing flexibility. For example, we're going to be working with a new contract manufacturer. And normally you have to go there in person, do a site visit, all that stuff. Well, we're in a, kind of a stay-at-home order in almost every state. So yeah, they were perfectly fine with what I proposed, which was just doing a review of their ISO certification, which was just done in December. So there were eyes there, and doing a virtual tour and reading all their quality stuff. And if we found it to be acceptable, then they were fine with that. So they are being, I would say they're being as flexible as they can be. And I see there's a question, are those 3M masks for sale anywhere? Well, good luck if you can find them. I don't think so. They don't.
Yeah,
they are trying to step up there. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago I bought these, yes.
I think to mow the lawn was why Bill bought those.
Yes.
Great.
But they are trying, there is a program right now, there's an RFP out there. If anybody's into this kind of thing, to replenish our national stockpile, which I'm sure everyone's pretty much heard is pretty much empty. It's to be for, I believe it's started at least at 500 million masks, but I think they might change that to a billion. Yeah. And that is being run through.
Days.
Pardon?
Yeah, I think it's within 60 days or something like that. And that's
it's a very short
government.
Thing. And they will break it into pieces so you can bid on doing different parts to that. But if anybody's interested, I would look at the NIOSH website. I don't think we got, but we did say we would send out our deck. It does have some URLs in there for you about NIOSH in particular. And really, honestly, the best thing to do is read it. Don't just plunge in, but kind of read it. And 42 CFR Part 84, like anything that's in the Federal Register, is very hard to read. That's why I suggest you read the SAP, the Standard Application Procedure, because it's in English. It's lighthearted as opposed to a regulation, and it has a lot of checklists. I don't know if you can see me, but they have these checklists, and they're very helpful. They're just one page long, and they cover different things, but they tell you what you need in your quality assurance manual, what you need in your plan, your quality control plan. They tell you that. And so there's no really, there's no good excuse for going there without having it, to be honest.
That's great advice. And if someone were to be at the stage where they want to go through the compliance, how would they get in touch with you guys to have you help
Yep.
them?
comply@3comply.com. So COMPLY at the number 3 COMPLY.com.
Perfect.
And thanks very much for having us.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And thank you for putting this together. And, you know, this has been great. And this is a great community that, and I look forward to the time that we all get all together again. So thank you.
For sure.
Thank you, guys.